welcome to the
Good
Swirl Suite. Good
morning.
morning.
Thanks.
Welcome to the Swirl Suite, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarita. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm glad we can do something to help kick off spring.
Yes, I love it. So before we get started, please
Yes,
introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are.
absolutely. So good morning, everybody. Today's March 20th, first day of spring, depending on whether you count that today or tomorrow. My name is Chef Lauren Cummings, and I am a personal chef. I have a Washington, D.C. based personal chef business, and I help folks with their weekly meal prep. And I specialize in working with folks and building menus for clients who have dietary restrictions, finicky food preferences, or challenging allergies to work with. And so that's what I do here in Washington, D.C.
Awesome. Really quick, before you get started,
Yeah.
tell us, what was that moment like when you realized that you wanted to have a career in food?
That's a great question. And for me, I'm really fortunate that it happened for me at a really young age. I was not aware at the time that this is what was happening, but I've got this really vivid memory of being maybe 6 years old tops.
Wow.
And I'm in the kitchen with my grandmother. I've got a step stool on the ground, and I'm in this position. I'm on a step stool, 5, 6 years old, and my grandmother and I'm getting chills right now. We're making scrambled eggs.
Wow.
Is this memory and again, I'm getting goosebumps all over. She and I we're at the stove. I've got a spatula in my hand. She's showing me how to scramble the eggs. And I just remember feeling this huge blanket of love.
Oh.
And I just remember standing there with my grandmother around me thinking, this is a feeling that I want to last forever.
Mm.
And ever since that moment, I just remember being drawn to the kitchen, whether it was a storybook and, you've got the page and it's labeled, this is the table and this is the chairs and this is the
Right.
counter. And I remember just being really drawn into anything that was food centric happening in a kitchen. It brought that big blanket of love back to my life. And I think I've just been continuously chasing that feeling of wrapping people in warm, comfy blankets with food.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
That's a great story. So speaking of eggs, you are making us an omelet today, so go for it.
We're making an omelet today. So today's omelet is a springtime omelet, and it is packed with seasonal ingredients that just scream spring. And so we're going to get started. I've got a hot pan right here. And to this pan, I like to add cooking oil spray.
Okay.
It's low cal, it's easy. Your oil won't get damaged by the sunlight. And so I've got, to this hot pan, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of diced onions.
Okay.
Right off the bat, you can hear them sizzling a little bit. And so we're just going to move these guys around so they start to get soft. And I like to season each of the stages of my cooking with salt and pepper, assuming that, folks can consume salt. Like working with a client right now who is on a low salt diet.
Okay.
And so in that case, I just wouldn't add any salt. So we're just going to saute our onions until they get a little bit soft and a little bit of color and a little bit of brown. In this case, I'm using a white onion. A yellow onion would work great as well. A red onion, if you had that on hand, that would be delicious to add another element of flavor. If you don't like onions, you could skip them all together. Scallions would also be a good option.
I love scallions.
And scallions are in season right now. And that's something I do want to talk about is
yes, please.
What is in season right now.
Yes.
So some of the seasonal veggies that we're seeing in the farmer's market and in the grocery store right now include asparagus, cauliflower, broccoli is in season, beets are in season, artichokes. Artichokes are one of those vegetables that you either love them, you hate them. Sometimes they can be intimidating because all of those spiky leaves.
Yeah.
And beets. I don't know if I said beets. Beets are also in season. So yeah, take a look at what your local farmers markets are offering. I know sometimes with grocery stores, it can be tricky because they'll offer a wide range of produce all year round. And when that produce isn't in season, it might not taste the most robust. Like for example, there's definitely a difference between tasting a strawberry in March versus tasting a strawberry in June. And there's a big difference. So I recommend using seasonally available produce. So we've got our onions. They're starting to turn a little golden brown.
Okay.
Getting some color. And now that they're starting to cook down, I am going to add our next ingredient in this omelet, which is spinach. Spinach is in season right now. So this is fresh spinach that I just coarsely chopped up into some smaller bits. And spinach cooks down a lot. This might look like a lot of spinach. People are like, Lauren, I want some eggs with my, my spinach. We're not having spinach for breakfast. But Sarita, once this starts to get some heat, it's going to cook down and wilt. And as this is starting to wilt down, I'm also going to add some garlic.
Okay.
The garlic doesn't want to be cooked today. Not a lot of people add garlic to their omelets. And this is
I've never seen that before.
That I think is underrated. I put garlic in everything.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense now that you've done it.
Garlic is not only flavorful, it's antibacterial. And it's going to help us during this time of year when those allergies start to kick through and we're starting to feel kind of icky from the weather changing. So just like we did with the onions, I'm going to season our spinach with a little bit of salt and pepper. And then at this point, we are just about ready for our eggs. I'll turn the temp down just a smidge. See, our spinach is almost gone. It's completely wilted.
Look at that.
So this will make space for the rest of the ingredients in our omelet. So to this pan, I'm going to add a dab of butter. And the butter is just going to help coat the bottom of the pan so that once we put the eggs in, they don't stick, because it's nothing more frustrating than an omelet that is sticking to your pan. So I've got this pan nice and coated in butter. I've got 2 eggs right here that I am scrambling up, and to the eggs I added, get ready, 1 teaspoon of water.
Okay, I was about to ask, what is your scramble trick?
I am going to tell you all about that, but before I do, I want to get these eggs started. I'm adding some fresh chopped herbs. In this bowl, I've got some freshly chopped dill and freshly chopped parsley. And if you can't tell already, the theme of this omelet is green for spring. So here's my pan, nice and coated in the butter. And I am just pouring my eggs right in. Okay, we can smell the garlic. The onions are nice and caramelized. So what I've got here is my omelet in the pan. My eggs are cooking. And what you want to do is just gently lift the outsides of the pan where the egg is cooked. And you want to tilt your pan as you're lifting up with your rubber spatula to tilt the eggs underneath. And this helps cook the rest of the eggs in your omelet, because we want our eggs to be cooked all the way through, if not majority of the way through. It's okay to eat an omelet with eggs that are just slightly undercooked, kind of the way that you would eat like a runny fried egg with your yolk, not cooked all the way. But we're going to try to get as much of this egg to cook as possible. Let that hang out. And so this omelet is just screaming springtime. We've got lots of green, spinach is in season. Some other options of veggies to add in here would be like quartered cherry tomatoes would be great in this omelet. If you wanted to add artichokes would be delicious with caramelized onions, kind of like a spinach and artichoke dip kind of influenced omelet. That would be delicious. So I'm about 70% of the way done. I'm sorry, the eggs are about 70% of the way done, not me.
And
And
so I
I'm
have a
just,
question about your fire. Like, how hot should
yeah,
your flame be?
that's a great question. So when I started the onions, I was at a medium heat. Some folks have knobs that are like a 0 through 9, 10 up to high. I had it on between like a 5 and a 6. So
Mhm.
just a smidge more than halfway to
Okay.
cook the onions. But then once I put the eggs in, I
Mhm.
turned my flame down to about like between a 4 and a 5.
Okay.
Okay, so just a smidge less than medium.
Okay.
So I've got my eggs most of the way cooked here. I'm loosening up. I've now switched to a flat bottom spatula.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna loosen the eggs. And at this point, I wanna flip my omelet over. Flip. I know a lot of times we see omelet people doing like the fancy
Yeah.
flip.
Yeah.
It was really important to me to show a recipe that everyone at home could make. And that can be a really challenging technique to master. So regular spatula flipping your omelet over is just the way you want to go.
Okay.
And while the omelet is cooking on the other side, I'm going to add my favorite part, which is the cheese.
Mm.
Today I'm using feta cheese. I think feta just really complements spinach and parsley beautifully. So
Yes.
I'm putting cheese on just half of my omelet. I've turned the heat off of my omelet at this point because I don't want to overcook my eggs. And the
Okay.
residual heat from the pan will cook the opposite side.
Okay.
So the omelet's been flipped over for almost a minute and the other side is about cooked. So I'm just going to take my omelet
Hmm.
and fold it in half over
Oh, wow.
our
That looks so
cheese.
good.
So the hot omelet will help melt the rest of the cheese. And I've got a plate right here for serving. Let me make sure everybody can see my plate. And I'm gonna take my omelet. I'll make sure everybody gets a good look down to our plate. And I reserved a little bit of the fresh herbs because I love the garnish. Okay, so there we go. There's our springtime omelet. It's got sauteed spinach, sauteed garlic, onions, feta cheese on the inside,
Oh, man.
fresh parsley and dill, which is just, to me, the perfect spring omelet. And
That
there we
looks
go.
that looks delicious.
Thank
That
you.
looks
Thank you so much.
delicious. Oh,
Awesome.
man. So what is one of your favorite sides to serve on the side of an omelet?
Yeah, great question. I am very classic when it comes to potatoes. I love
Mm.
potatoes. My favorite to use for specifically home fries
Yeah.
is a golden potato. I really like the color, the flavor, the crispness that it gets. So what I'll do is I'll dice my potatoes. I'll parboil them in a little bit of boiling water. Turn the water on, and once it starts to boil, I'll let it sit for 3 minutes. Drain it, dry my potatoes, oil, salt, pepper, rosemary, oven, 400 degrees, 25 to 35 minutes, crispy, wonderful. Get a bite of crispy potatoes with your omelet. It's just heaven.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. Now, are you a wine drinker? We're going to talk wine for just a second.
I do enjoy wine, and actually I've been excited about talking about which flavors would complement perfectly with this omelet, and I've got some great ideas for our viewers, for our wine drinkers.
Okay.
So when I'm envisioning myself eating this omelet, I am outside, I'm on a porch, I'm on a patio, it's spring, it's Saturday or Sunday. The kids are not bothering me, and I am just enjoying my omelet. And in my hand, I've got a glass of sparkling white wine. I think sparkling white wine has just that crispness that
Yes.
reminds me of spring. And for me, I think that is just the perfect complement to this omelet.
Yeah.
If you're not into the sparkling white wines, normal, a non-carbonated white wine would be delectable. I would go something a little bit sweeter for this omelet because it's got that saltiness from the feta, it's got the savory from the garlic, and so I personally would want I'd enjoyed pairing that with something that's a little bit sweeter.
Sure.
I would go with the Pinot Grigio direction, maybe a Sauvignon Blanc. I'd probably stay away from a Chardonnay for this. And I think like a Riesling or a Moscato on the other end is like a little bit too extreme in the sweet. So I think right in the middle with a Sauvignon Blanc, if you weren't a fan of the sparkling white wine, would be just delectable for a beautiful spring brunch.
Absolutely. And I'd like to add to that.
Yeah.
There is a trend that we're starting to see with Prosecco, but in rosé form. So
Really?
what producers are doing is adding small amounts of red wine, usually a Pinot Noir, to the Galera
Okay.
grape. So the Prosecco is made with the Galera grape.
Okay.
And they're presenting this beautiful colored Prosecco sparkling
Wow.
wine that's perfect for brunch. Perfect,
I'm
perfect.
on board. Sign me up. That
Yeah,
sounds amazing. Like perfectly chilled. I can see the
exactly.
bubbles in the glass. I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds delectable.
And so what's great about it is most of them are cost effective. They're under $20, which is
Nice.
even better.
Very
Some more
nice.
suggestions. Not people don't give Sauvignon Blanc enough credit. Sauvignon Blanc
What
is
you mean?
outstanding for brunch,
Yeah.
especially one of my favorite omelets is goat cheese and asparagus and
Oh,
mushrooms. So
I'm drooling.
once you have those, Sauvignon Blanc is perfect.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite Sauvignon Blancs is actually from South Africa, from
Ooh,
Steenberg, and
very nice.
it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. And what I'm sipping while you were making the omelet today
Yes,
is
please tell us.
actually a rosé. It's a still rosé, and it's from Kirkland. It's from Costco. So it's
Okay.
a Syrah rosé, and it's made by Charles Smith, 100%
Okay.
Syrah, and it has notes of like strawberry and watermelon. And what goes great with
Ooh.
that feta
Yep.
cheese? So that would be
Absolutely.
perfect for your omelet. So
Absolutely.
those
And
are,
I want to
yeah,
jump in also. Kirkland is far underrated when it comes to wine selection. So
yeah,
if that's something that your viewers and listeners are open to, I
yeah,
recommend taking a trip to the Washington, D.C. Costco. It for, the locals.
yeah,
It's just down the street. And the inventory is incredible, both for price and variety. I
yes.
refer my clients quite often to Costco's adult beverage section. It's remarkable.
Yes. So please show everybody your omelet one more time and
Yes,
tell everybody what's in it.
absolutely. This was our beautiful omelet, our springtime omelet. We sauteed onions until they were golden brown. We added spinach until it wilted along with garlic. And then we set our eggs in the pan. And at the last minute, we added feta cheese, folded our omelet, and we topped it with fresh dill and parsley. And these flavors are just, like I said, they are screaming spring. They are bright. They are fresh. They are green, which is my favorite color. So I can't wait to dig in.
Yes. So another question for you.
Yeah.
What's a food item that you just love to cook with no matter what?
So I'm actually really glad you asked this question. So the name of my business is Fiddlehead Chef. And majority of people do not know what that means. And I am here to educate the world on what fiddleheads are. Okay. So, and they are actually one of my favorite things to cook, and I get really excited about it. So fiddleheads are a food, they're a vegetable. They are grown in the wild. And they are essentially this vegetable that kind of curls in on themselves. Okay. They taste kind of like a green bean meets an asparagus. They're a little bit bitter. But the reason I named my business Fiddlehead Chef is because I've got really big curly hair. So I have this head full of fiddleheads, is the reason I named my business this.
Hmm.
Now, the tricky thing about fiddleheads is they are in season for a really short period of time. That's the bad news.
Hmm.
The good news is it's about to happen.
Hmm.
So April, the end of April is when you'll start seeing fiddleheads. You can see them at the farmer's market. Sometimes the upper scale grocery stores, like Whole Foods, will sometimes carry them. And the season is really short. You'll see them from about the end of April to maybe the beginning of like the first week or two of June. And I like to cook fiddleheads just like I do asparagus or green beans. So I'll cook them in water just to kind of take the bite off a little bit to make them a little bit softer. And then once I drain them, I'll put them in a pan with oil and a little bit of garlic and salt and pepper and just saute them simply because I think they're such a fun vegetable to eat, to look at. They kind of look like aliens, and they're really rare, like they're hard to find. And their price tag will match that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
that is something, like I said, I get really excited to cook with them because I don't see them often, and my business is named after them. So that's something that I get really excited to cook is fiddlehead ferns.
That's awesome.
Thank
As
you.
as a personal chef, what are
Yeah.
some trends that you're seeing right now?
So one of the trends that I'm seeing in the personal chef community is trying to recreate dishes that my clients have seen, whether that's
Mm.
on the internet or social media, and making consumable versions for them.
Hmm.
So that could be like the cauliflower pizza crust. You know, a lot of folks are enjoying this cauliflower pizza crust, but I may have a client who I'll use my client, one of the clients I have right now, who's a zero salt client. And
Mm.
so it's challenging for him, if not impossible, to go out to a restaurant and enjoy a cauliflower pizza crust, or go to the grocery store and even buy a cauliflower brand pizza. So one of the things that I'm noticing with my clients is that they'll ask me to recreate the trends that are happening in the real world in a version that is safe for them to enjoy.
Hmm. Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned restaurant, and one of my favorite Food Network shows is Best Thing I Ever Ate. I
Okay.
love to know where chefs like to eat. So, talk about maybe one or two of your favorite restaurants that you love,
Yes.
and what do you like about them?
This is one of the easiest answers for me, and I was not paid to say this. There is a very small sushi restaurant in Baltimore City in Federal Hill called Shoyu Sushi. Shoyu means soy sauce in Japanese. And this restaurant is run by a man named Sushi Bruce. And granted, I have not been to Japan, but it is the best sushi I've had in my life. When I want comfort food, when I want to celebrate my birthday, I am driving to Baltimore to go eat Sushi Bruce's incredible creations. It just, the umami, the sweet, the salty, the savory, the bitter. I mean, he knows how to do it, and he's been doing it. He opened his restaurant 2012 was when I met him, like 2 days after he opened his restaurant. His small little 10-seater shop was a couple blocks from my apartment, and I just stumbled upon him one day. And so that, I'd say that is at the top of my list, and everyone is shocked to hear that that is my answer when I'm asked that question quite often. What's your favorite thing to eat? I will drive 45 to 50 minutes out of my way, depending on DC traffic, to go eat at Sushi Bruce's restaurant, hands down.
I'm actually surprised, yet not. I was watching an episode of Chopped last
Yeah.
week, and the whole episode was about breakup food. And one of the chefs made sushi, and my husband Alan was like, "Sushi is a breakup food?" I said, "It absolutely is a breakup food.
Yep.
There is nothing more comforting to me than sushi. If I'm going through something tough and girlfriends
Yep.
come over and they bring bottles of wine and sushi, I mean,
Is it even a
that's
question?
I mean, it's not. It's not.
I'm so glad you understand
I
the
do.
importance of the role of sushi
Yeah.
in, I think, just emotions.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I think every single day I think to myself, could today be the day that I drive to Baltimore? And every day it's a challenge. I've got to say no.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, Lauren, this was fantastic. Tell
Thank you.
everybody where they can follow you.
Absolutely. So I can be found on most social media platforms at Fiddlehead Chef. And that's FIDDLEHEADCHEF, Fiddlehead Chef. And I know Swirl Suite and Sarita will provide my handles so that everybody can easily find me on Instagram, on Facebook. That's where I am.
Awesome. Yes. So this video will live on Facebook, our YouTube channel, and the audio will go on our podcast on Wednesday. So
Thank you,
yes,
Sarita, one
yes,
last time.
yes.
Oh,
That
look at
omelet
this
looks so
beautiful
good.
omelet. I will
Yes.
save you a piece.
Please
Let
do.
me know when you'll be here.
Yes, and we will definitely have to dine sushi together since we live in the same city.
I would love that. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sarita.
All right, awesome. Have a good Saturday.
All right, Swirl Suite. Thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.